All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Channels Memes Google Plus Hangout. Today we'll be looking at the issues that arose in the National Assembly. Now talking about the bogus pay um for the wardrobe allowances. There's been so much talk around in the country. The members have responded, but then, I mean, it's still some topic that needs to be looked at very well. Well, with me on the hangout, we have Olumuyiwa Amamao, who is in Dunedin in New Zealand. Najib Bello is in Lagos, Nigeria, and Deji Adeyonju is in London, that's in England. Well, we'll be looking at all this now, so I'll give you the home advantage, as they always say in football, to get the ball rolling here. I mean, there's been so much going on in the past week. What do you think? You think they don't deserve this pay? You think it is too much for them? Don't forget, it's a combined, the whole thing, the 9 billion is combined. We're talking about wardrobe, we're talking about housing, we're talking about car as well as furniture. You think it's a step too far?
Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Um, in terms of the allowance, I think it's just too much. It's a whole lot too much. 9 billion is something that if you put into some part of this country, something will get moving. And we're talking about a time where there's a cash crunch, there's no money in the system. So talking about spending 9 point something billion naira on allowances for clothes, for fuel and other things, I feel it's a lot too much. I even feel things like the wardrobe allowance should not even be there at all. If they're going to have their cars fueled and they're going to have some other things, but for now we're in a period where we're virtually in like a recess. Our economy is down, so I don't think it's one of those things we should be prioritizing right now. So basically, I'm totally against it.
All right. I'm just coming closer again, talking about the home advantage at DG. You are in London, you're quite closer too. Um, Najib just said it is not in good faith to look at this people, this the representatives now in the upper and lower legislative chambers, and give them a large sum of amount of money to take care of some things. Well, they just fallen out. I guess his internet is not in good shape. Well, let me just come to you. You heard Najib right now. He made his own submission saying he doesn't agree with these allowances to be distributed to members of the National Assembly. What's your take? Do you agree or do you have a different view?
In some extremes of the world, where you have a few minority dictating or controlling the larger chunk of what ordinarily should go to the majority. Nowhere in the world does this madness, if you like, happen, except in countries where there is no law or there are laws, and the laws are made for just a very few, or the laws are meant to benefit a very few. It only happens in banana republics where anything goes and where anything happens. Clothe who? Who are you clothing? Whose wardrobe allowance? Who owns the wardrobe? Who owns the allowance? Those are the questions people need to ask for. Even if the money was $1 per legislator, I still think that the whole idea behind it is self-defeating. I mean, you cannot do that in normal democracy. And that Nigerians have allowed this madness to continue is a pointer to the fact that we operate in a binary public where people just don't give a damn, and where people don't care, and where it doesn't matter how much you steal, as long as it doesn't take the little food they got on their table out from those tables, they wouldn't complain. And that worries me. Even if our economy was as buoyant as the Ethiopian economy, which is the fastest growing after China in the world, I do not think that this kind of a thing should happen with citizens folding their arms and watching people just taking their lives away from them in broad daylight. This for me is more than robbery, and I have a problem with it for one reason, not because it's a lot of money, but because we have a new government which came into power on the slogan of change. So the question some of us are beginning to ask is, what are we changing from? Is this continuity or is this change? And if it is change, what are you changing from? From the old to the old, or from the new to a new, or to a new old? These are fundamental questions people must ask themselves. And for some of us who put our lives and our ideas and beliefs on the line for this government to emerge, I feel certain that it's starting on the very wrong footing. And unfortunately, again, the presidency has kept mum. That worries me, and that's a serious thing we need to really be concerned about as a people and as Nigerians. So it would be my hope, it would be my belief that in the weeks to come, the government would focus, and then we'll see a situation where the government can address Nigerians properly, and we'll be able to get the right idea of how much is really going to who and how much is not going to. At the moment, I still would continue to believe that it's a hoax, it's a rumor that doesn't exist, until the government does finalize that and we see it in print. Because I read just some few minutes ago that the House leadership and the Senate, indeed, the Senate leadership and both the House of Reps are beginning to say that the amount does not exist and that it exists only in the imagination of Nigerians. What that means, no one knows. So let's exactly know how much is paid to each senator, why such pay should continue to sustain in the midst of this crazy economic situations Nigerians are going through.
All right, very well. Biji, let me come to you now. I mean, quite a bit of water has gone under the bridge since when you dropped. But then, what's your take? Muyiwa has raised two concerns. One, he spoke about this thing happening and Nigerians are quiet about it, and also he raised the issue of the leadership of the National Assembly, saying that these figures only exist in the imaginations of Nigerians. But if you look at I think there was a hashtag, like you see, the hangout is titled Undress Nas and Matters Rising. What do you think about such movements? I think Nigerians have moved beyond just talking about it on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google, on social media platforms, and they are actually, I don't know if the march went on, but what do you think about the march, and what do you think about the reaction of the leadership of the National Assembly?
Yeah, well, for me, I see that so far, maybe only Ben Murray-Bruce has said he was going to reject, not really reject, the jumbo pay, but that he was going to donate, some of his own to Osun State and, the other half to his constituency in Bayelsa. So for me, I am extremely disappointed that, in 2015, our legislators can still be this heartless to the Nigerian people. Because imagine if every elected politician in Nigeria, continue sharing money in this proportion, there will be practically nothing left for the ordinary people to eat. And like I have said, once things like this continue, a time is going to come when ordinary Nigerians and poor Nigerians will have nothing left to eat but the politicians, And I'm of the opinion that Nigerians, irrespective of party lines, and party divide, should come together, to make sure that we make a statement, in the Occupy movement. And it should not just be like business as usual, where we just come, say nice things, and we go back. We should ensure that something is done about this, because Nigerians were promised change. This is definitely not the kind of change that we expected. We in the PDP, I, for instance, I believe that things should not be like the way they were from 1999 to 2015. Things should be different. People out of moral, because this is a moral issue. They should on their own reject the pay. We don't need to hit the streets before they know what to. They should do the right thing. And I'm of the opinion that Nigerians, should talk to their legislators, and prevail upon them to reject the pay, because if Ben Murray is saying he's going to donate, that means still collecting the money. We don't want them to collect this money. We don't want a situation where they will be able to have access to such outrageous funds, because it's just completely unacceptable to me, because considering the economic realities, dwindling of the price of crude oil globally, if we continue to carry on like this as a government and as a people, a time will come where ordinary federal civil servants.
All right, I think we're losing Deji's audio there. I think his internet isn't coming too far. Well, Muiwa, let me come to you. Najib, we see you're back. Welcome back. But I'll come back to you too. Yeah, Muiwa, let me come to you now. Talking about the leadership, we are trying to say they've rejected or are not even going to take this money. The RMAFC has said that these allowances is either, especially that of the wardrobe, is actually at 500,000 naira annually. But then, why the noise? If the government agency that is the one regulating all the monies that is being paid to legislators, the president and ministers and co, and if they come out to say that okay, it is not what has been going on around in the media, this is what exactly it is. Why exactly are we still making all these noises?
Well, it boils down to one fact, and that simple fact is that Nigerians don't trust the establishment, and whatever the government tells you, people have a reason to doubt. And that's not a fact or a problem that started with this regime. This is a function of the misrule that we have had over the last 50-something or so years, and over the last 5 decades and a half. Nigerians have not had a government that's been true to them. They have not had a government they can believe in. They have not had a government that had their welfare at the back of its mind. And so when you have instances like that, people tend to doubt everything that comes out from government establishments. The question we should ask ourselves is this: where did the 8.64 billion naira emanate from? Who flew that kite? For what purpose was that? What was that kite flew? And what was it meant to achieve? Was it meant to test the waters? Was it real? Or was the figure of 500,000 that the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Committee gave us meant to doubt the tensions that arose as a result of the 8.64 billion naira figure that was given out? These are issues that are very germane. It still boils down to the fact that there's a lot of miscommunication and distrust in the system, and that this government, after all, is looking much more useless, if you like, in my own opinion, at least in the last 2 or 3 weeks, much more than the Jonathan government that some of us described as utterly clueless and irresponsible. I mean, how can you have a government institution wait for issues like this to become alarming before it comes out with whatever figure you think is right? Who is in charge of all these RMAFC committees? Who's in charge of the National Assembly leadership? Who gives information out to the public? These are issues we need to ask as citizens. People must be made accountable for whatever come out from them. People must stand for whatever statements that emanate from them. Now, if we were given wrong figures in the first instance, some people must pay for it. That's how it happens in all democracies. So I still believe that in between the 8.64 billion naira and the 500,000 naira figure that the RMAFC give us, there's still some elements of shady undertones attached. And not until we dig deep into the whole issue, we wouldn't be able to know exactly how much given to which senator and how much is not. Even if it is just 1 naira per legislator, in my own opinion, it is still, like someone said, or like my colleague said, a moral question. And it questions our morality and our thoughts and consciousness, both as a people and as leaders, and the kind of leaders that we have chosen to lead us in that country, which for me is regrettable. It doesn't matter how much they are given. The question is, why collect wardrobe allowance? In whose interest are you dressing up for? Does dressing up make part of the responsibility why you were elected? We need to see how beautiful you look. If you made a National Assembly individual, and you are expected to be able to clothe yourself. That's how it happens all over the world. Nobody pays for suits or jackets or winter jackets for senators in the U.S. or congressmen in the U.S. No one does that, except in the Banana Republic like Nigeria.
All right, Banana Republic, well, that's in your opinion again. But let me just come to you, Najib. Talking about slashing all those costs, I mean, the budget of the National Assembly used to be 150 billion, but it was cut down to 120 billion. Don't you think that's a step in the right direction?
Honestly, the billions spent on the National Assembly is still outrageous. We have 500 public servants working in an institution for a year, and they are going to be spending 150 billion or 100 billion thereabout. What do they manufacture? What are they doing there? They sit down, have discussions, take recess for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, come back, and they spend 150 billion. It doesn't make sense. These are 500, less than 500 public servants, and their job is to talk. You understand? So I don't see a reason why they should be spending billions of naira. In fact, I find it troubling that they'll be spending more than 8 billion naira a year. I find it very troubling.
I wonder.
We have institutions in this country. There is, for instance, let me give you an example. It's the federal government college. Go to one of these federal government colleges, large expanse, about 1,000 or so students, lecturers. They don't spend up to 1 billion naira educating students in a year. So I don't see any reason why they should be spending this billion. It's really outrageously expensive for these public servants, less than 500 of them to do this, and with whose permission? When they tell us about the revenue mobilization and fiscal allocation committee, where did those people get the figures from? You find out that it's still a circle that leads up to the same Senate and House of Representatives. You understand? They tell the executive, do this. The executive says, okay, do this, and it be. You understand? So it's all a circle. By the time we go, because we will definitely go to this place, the RMFAC, we'll go there and say, how did you get this figure that you should be giving people 506,000 naira to clothe? And they will tell us, okay, it came from there. And we'll go to that place, and you'll find out that eventually it came from the Senate. So anyway, we are going to go around and get this thing. And the thing I want to tell Nigerians, we should not forget that these people are public servants. We send them there to go and serve us. And we must tell them how we want to be served. If we don't tell them, then they will go there and do anything they like. So we must call them and say, okay, you are resuming work. This is what we want from you, as in different, your district. From your senatorial district, get your union together, get your people and say, okay, let's set out what we want our senator to say in the Senate this year, how we want our country to move this year. So I think Nigerians should start doing that, telling their public servants what they want to see. I think that's the way forward. We have to start determining what happens there.
All right. Well, I guess the Nigerian political system is already getting to that level where you can actually tell your representative what you want or what you do not want. But I'll also come back to you. But let me just catch up with Deji. He fell out of the hangout earlier on, but he's back on now. Yeah, Deji, there's a bit of background noise too where you are. I don't know if you can maybe reduce the volume of your television set or room. All right. But in the meantime, you were also contributing while Najib was saying a thing or two, on what is going on how it actually looks like a round-robin connection between the RMAFC and the National Assembly, and that's why these figures keep coming out, and then again you hear another figure or they get to debunk what is flying in the media. But what do you make of the whole situation? Even if there's a connection, that's why you have the FOI bill. Najib is already advocating that, okay, they will go around to find. But looking at other things in the past where the FOI was being tried, where you tried to actually implement the FOI, how would you say it has been successful in times past? So that will also build up now to what Najib is saying.
Inquiries. I think I saw a letter from Budget IT when they wrote to the National Assembly seeking certain informations, and the way they tactically maneuver you know, the maneuver over answering, you know, and all that. It's just very strange, you know, and very funny. But let me tell you something. This still boils down to the fact that Nigerians must begin to elect the right people. You see, the senator representing me, my constituency, Senator Dino Melaye, he goes to Transcorp Hilton, snaps, you know, he poses on the bed, he does selfie, he goes with women. Those are not the kind of people that should be elected. See, let me tell you something. I am very certain that because with this card reader thing and with the change that has gone through INEC, if it can be sustained, do you understand? I am of the opinion and of the view that if the people can decide that the poorest of the poor among them, they choose somebody that goes to the National Assembly to represent them. Believe me, if that man gets there, he will not be behaving in certain ways that these people are behaving. You need to sit close to these people to understand why they cannot change. They cannot change. Listen, these people, they talk one thing, they do another. That is just the fact. Imagine Dino saying he's going to take a pay cut. It doesn't make any, even if he says he's just doing lip service. Listen, these people, they are just jokers. They are jesters. You understand? When you go to the National Assembly, I've been there several times. When you go there, you look at them, you see, they are not doing anything. They just, you know, they are very irresponsible people. You know, so the people, because for me, I don't see change. Change cannot happen now. I'll begin to think of maybe something positive may start happening for maybe 2019, you know, 2023, thereabout. Because we need to consolidate on this card reader thing. You understand? And what was recorded in INEC. Once the people decide that they will stop electing irresponsible people to National Assembly, then we can now even talk about, you know, bringing accountability, you know, cutting. This group of people in National Assembly, they are going to resist change. They are going to resist anything because they are not there for the people, they are just there for themselves. Their welfare, that is why you can see in the House of Reps, immediately they were sworn in, the speaker hurriedly set up committee on welfare. In the Senate too, later, that was what they did, because the first thing is, let me satisfy my stomach infrastructure, let me take care of myself, you know, the car that I'm going to drive, you know, and most of the times they fight over cars. They said that, I had a senator was saying that they were fighting. He was just me. He was telling me that they were having an argument that the last senators used, the cars they were using was 2011. Their Prados were 2011. Their Toyota Camry was 2011. And that because that was the 2011 they were sworn in, that the cars they must be given now must be 2015 cars. So that was the argument. You understand? In the committee on welfare. So imagine the people that we are electing to go and serve are people who have high taste. You understand? They have high taste, they have longer throat, like the Nigerians will say. So they are not there to go and defend the people. It's not about service. Until we begin to elect people who see politics as service, who don't take politics as a profession, because for instance, if politics is not your profession, you have your business, you know, maybe you are running an ICT farm or a PR farm, or you are running a business. You know, once in a while you go to plenary on Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, you can take a drive from Kano, you know, and come to Abuja, then go back. There was a time we had an interactive session with Metama Sule. That was what he told us. He said during their time, that was how it was. It wasn't as if it was a job. They will now station you in Transcorp Hilton. National Assembly will be paying your bills. You understand? Then you will also now get additional rooms for other girls that, you know, you will be paying their bills. These things, when you see what our senators who are supposed to be distinguished are doing, it's very, very sad. You understand? And for me, I have said to myself that the best way for us to bring accountability is let the media needs to help us, and we need to also use social media, the power of recall. You know, if people can begin to recall senators, if they see that it has happened to one person. For instance, look at the deputy speaker from Osun. Look at the thing he was saying, that the jumbo pay is not outrageous. You know, that alone deserve, it deserves for him to be recalled, because this is somebody, even if it was a PDP honorable member now, it's still understandable, because they see us in the PDP as if we are the problem with Nigeria. But now you can say that there's unity in looting by the display of what we have seen in the National Assembly. Both the PDP and the APC senators and honorable members, they are united in the attempt to just, loot the resources of the country. So these guys, they all seem to have a common ground and common interest, which is just what can we get? What all can we lay our hands on?
Well, I hope they don't get so much to lay their hands on. Well, let me come back to you now. Deji is now harping on the fact that we need to start recalling our representatives if indeed they do not perform. How do you see that? How do you see that working? I mean, looking at the fact that we're just even trying to get to a political stage where you can actually change a government that doesn't really fit. How do you see this going on, now moving on forward? I mean, looking at the fact that people are now making statements that shouldn't be made by legislators, and then they still remain. And if I may even add, the same person that you were talking about, his name was on the list of members that were said not to have proposed any bill in the last assembly. I think Leadership newspaper released a list of such senators and members of House of Representatives. But then, what do you think? How do you think and how soon do you think we can do that?
Well, the answer is very simple. You actually you might not need to recall people if we get our priorities right. And for me, the only solution to the National Assembly or the legislature crisis, vis-a-vis the kind of bad representation Nigerians are having, is to demonetize that system. And how do I mean? Make it a part-time institution where people don't come and sit down in Abuja and think that all their problems and that of their great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers will be solved by the Nigerian state. Ensure that whoever becomes a national legislator does that on a part-time basis, one. And this bogus pay, this alarming pay they get, scrap it completely. You will find out that you won't have all these money bags struggling to contest for positions as representatives and as senators again. The reason why you're having this madness, in quote, if you like, happening is because there's so much money to be shared. So once you make sure that these monies aren't any longer at stake, naturally, these tips in human clothing would disappear, and you would have the main people who have the interest of Nigerians at heart vying for positions. When you take the shine or the corruption off away from the National Assembly, you would have quality representation. When you sustain a system as we have been sustaining over the last 15 years, you have thieves and all kinds of shady characters representing people. And Deji tried, rather interesting also, to let us know that there used to be a time when PDP was in power, and when now that the APC is in power. For me, there is no difference between an APC and the PDP leadership. It's same of the same as far as I'm concerned. As a matter of fact, I'm even tempted to believe that if you had had a PDP continuation, the chances are great that Nigerians will know who the enemies are and who we are fighting. But now you have all kinds of characters running away from PDP, coming into APC, claiming they are change agents, and they are beginning to behave as irresponsible as most of those PDP leaders used to behave. So the question then becomes difficult for Nigerians to know exactly who the enemies are or who their greatest undoers are. So we have a problem in that regard. This whole concept of people thinking that once you come into the APC, you are now a saint is beginning to rob the shine away from the victory that Nigerians struggled to achieve on March 28th and April 11th. So I think the starting point would be whatever government we have, if it wants to show to Nigerians that it's serious, demonetize the National Assembly. Somebody who is strong, who is well-cultured, who is well-disciplined, who has a track record of prudence and accountability in terms of the executive should be able to do that and stand his ground or our ground to say, look, it used to happen in those days. I'm not going to allow this to continue. I don't have money to fund this kind of system. I'm not going to pay you 120 billion or whatever you claim you want to get to run your government. I only have 50 billion. Start from that. And let's see this demonetization setting gradually. Once that happens, I bet you in 4-8 years or in perhaps 2 periodic elections, you're going to see quality representation. But continue to give them this bogus allowances or bogus allocation in terms of what they get from the first charge. You would have madmen in courts representing us. You have people like Dino Melayu, who doesn't have any straight or clear-cut ideology representing Nigerians. You have someone like the Senate President Bukola Saraki, who was governor for 8 solid years in the PDP. All of a sudden turning a change agent. You would have several characters, and you can go on and on. So that for me is a major problem. That's why the man who is president does really need to step up his game and stop behaving like a dogoyaro, like some people have written in the national media. So I think we should start from that point, and maybe we'll get it right. Until we do that, bro, it's going to be a problem.
All right. Again, in your opinion, that's Mr. President you're talking about. I think that you're not being fair to him. But we'll come back to you again.
I didn't say that.
No, we'll come back to you.
Someone said that in the papers I read. I'm only reading.
All right. Najib, now let me come to you. The issue of Nigerians having to do something, now the Nigerian Labour Congress is saying that they will resort to civil, now so to speak, civil disobedience if these allowances are not reduced. Do you agree with them? Do you think it's a step in the right direction?
No, I don't agree with the NLC that they should resort to civil disobedience. That is not the thing to do when you disagree with such a matter. But on the other hand, I agree with Deji Adeyonju that it's about time we started recalling some of our senators, some of our representatives who are not doing what we ask them to do or what they are supposed to be doing. But before you start recalling, you understand, you have to tell these senators first, through the right channel, to do this and do that. Call your senator in the district through your representative or your interest group leader. Call your senator, send him a letter and say, we want you to move a motion on the floor of the House of Reps saying that there will be no allowance for furniture, no allowance for wardrobe. Tell your senator to do that. Through your interest group, if you are a student, go through your student union group. If you are a market woman, you have your market. Go and put these messages to them at the constituency office or the district office. Now, when the senator goes there and he does not move that motion, then you can start the process of recall. You understand? The issue of civil disobedience is not in our constitution. There is not a place it's written that if the people disagree and they go on the streets or they refuse to work, you should do this. No, the process is send them, tell them this is what you want through their office, and if they don't do it, begin to take signatures of people in their senatorial district and say, okay, INEC, we want this guy to return and we want to send somebody else. So I think that's what we should start doing. And we have to enlighten the masses that this is the way to go. This is how to solve this problem. Once they know we can solve the problem that they are causing, they will stop causing those problems. But like I said, it starts from telling them what we want them to do. I don't think anybody, like the deputy speaker, that did not raise any, he didn't move any motion, he didn't sponsor any bill. Probably his people never told him that sponsor a bill for so and so. So let's start from there. Write to their offices, go and meet them, send the leader of your group to go and meet them in their constituency offices and say, you go to this place and make this proposal that this thing should be cancelled. Then when they don't do that, move to recall them. Once we recall 1, 2, 3, the rest will begin to be obedient.
All right, Najib, let's hope that we get to that point where we will be able to be calling those who fail to perform in the House of Representatives and also in the upper legislative chamber, that is the Senate. But Deji, let me come to you again. There's a lot of noise filtering from your end. If you could change your location, yeah, it's kind of coming in. So if you could change your location something else. But then let me just put this to you. Senator Saraki, who is the Senate President, has said that the RMAFC is on the verge of reducing these allowances. Do you see that happening, or you think it's just another charade that the politicians are trying to pull off? All right. Mm-hmm.
you know, allocation, financial allocation, budgetary allocation. There are so many other issues, constituency allowances. Then you know they also have oversight functions, and most of them use those oversight functions as avenues to employ their relatives and villagers, you know, and they also use it to do contracts, you know. So the system, you know, I for one, immediately Buhari won, my hopes was that, you know, change is really going to take place in Nigeria. I expected so many things to have been done because it will have sent a clear message, you understand, to this 8th Assembly that this man is not here to joke. But you know, the man just went to sleep because he won the election. He knew he was going to be sworn in. He had like 2 months because his inauguration speech was very instrumental. You know, he should have used it to send a clear signal to everybody in all quarters that, you know, because these politicians, they look at the body language. Now it's too late. There's nothing he can do again. You understand? It's too late because he cannot come now and start acting tough. They just say that you know, that's an afterthought. This man is a weak man. You understand? Because we expected that, because he had the momentum, he had the people on his side, he had goodwill. You understand? So if he had used the opportunity to stamp his feet on the ground, and again, whether you like it or not, who takes leadership of the National Assembly should have been of great importance to him. You understand? But this is what we keep saying. When you go and bring somebody who is very old, you know, and probably sick, there are several other issues. But let's leave that now and focus on the issue. For me, I believe that it is very clear and obvious to us that we cannot have any development in Nigeria with this present thinking of the people that will have the National Assembly. Because I have not seen any of them, including Benmore Bruce, who has come out to condemn, you know, this jumbo pay and outrageous sums. Ben Bruce was just he was just being smart by half when he said he was going to, because what I expected him to do was to reject it and urge fellow members to do same. But he was trying to be smart and saying that only him cannot fight the system. Because what we expect is that it's not even Ben Bruce that should have led this struggle. It should have been the APC people who kept chanting change and waving brooms. They should have been the one to say, we cannot do this, Nigeria has changed. Because, again, because the leader of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, has failed to provide leadership. You understand? And that is, again, certain things send wrong signals. Dropping charges against Timothy Sylvia, so many things. Nyako came back with, if you see the boat Nyako came back to the country, then you can understand why things will be business as usual. You understand? In an ideal situation, this is an anti-corruption president was sworn in. People facing corruption charges, you know, now become so bold. They are reporting themselves to EFCC. You understand? So these things, you know, it says a lot. The ordinary Nigerians may not understand, but those who have been close to the corridors of power before, who know how things are done, they understand what it means for body language. Body language is everything. From day one, Buhari has gotten it wrong. And I don't see any magic happening now, because whatever he's trying to do now is he will be trying to do redemption. But, you know, he had all what, he was on the right course, you understand? And because the momentum that he had was very high, you know, so it's just like a plane. He should have just taken off immediately and hit the ground running. So for me, I believe that the legislators will not, no matter what the Senate President says, I am still of the opinion that the Senate President is going to be very cold-feeted when it comes to the issue of actually, you know, putting pressure on them to reduce the budget of the National Assembly.
Yeah, all right, very well. So, Deji, in essence, I mean, you spoke about so many things, but let me just pick you up on this. You said we will never get it right if some things continue to happen, but are you calling for a change in the Constitution or a review of the Constitution, so to speak?
Well, for me, I think a review in the Constitution would be step in the right direction, because you see, the problem is those who are reviewing the constitutions are the people that, you know, once you have the wrong people in that National Assembly, That is why I say, for instance, from my community, from my constituency, if the poorest of the poor, because now elections will begin to count. I hope so. I hope Buhari will not. Because I hope Buhari will not allow the men around him, to influence INEC. Because the former president did not allow that. Because if we can sustain on this improvement in INEC, believe me, once elections begin to count, and because I don't see why if elections count, I don't see why the poorest of the poor cannot bring somebody among themselves to become a senator or a honorable member. Because the political system in Nigeria is programmed in such a way that it's only the money bags that can get the party tickets. Just imagine, for instance, how much was used to run the APC campaign. Imagine people who donated money to the APC presidential campaign. You understand? Now they determine who gets what, when, and how. You understand? So, but if all what I want Buhari to do for me as a citizen is if he can consolidate on the electoral successes of President Goodluck Jonathan by making sure that INEC becomes completely independent. Completely. And when I mean completely, I mean the president, we should amend the laws to be that the president will not have the right, to remove INEC chairman, and also the issue of appointing of INEC chairman is done like from the NJC. Do you understand? That level of independence and their funding as well, because that will determine every other thing else in the country. And I believe that if it is possible for us to have it in such a way that on the issue of maybe not the laws being amended in the National Assembly, because when they want to amend the laws, for instance, look at the issue of defections.
Okay, I think we're kind of deviating. Yes, I know I put in this question, but we're looking at the whole NAS issue, and now we've actually delved into review of the Constitution. I think that we'll leave that for another day. But Muyiwa, let me just come to you. Almost wrapping up now, and of course, I know your eyes are heavy. It is almost 3 a.m. where you are right now, but then sorry to keep you up. But I believe you're also very interested in this because as a citizen, I'm sure you are, and every other citizen is interested as well. But just in wrapping up now, what would be your last word? What would be your advice to the Senate leadership, the RMAFC, and also to Nigerians?
Well, unfortunately, I have no advice for the Senate leadership or for the National Assembly, the House of Rep leadership. I only have one advice for the man who is president and commander-in-chief, and that's President Buhari. The man needs to step up his game. We, on the social media, through our pen and whatever small intelligence God gave us, we condemned Goodluck Jonathan up to a point where people felt it was the most hated character in the world. The pen that we used to write against Jonathan were not thrown away. We kept them somewhere. It would take us nothing to bring this pen out and nail President Muhammadu Buhari to the dustbin of history if he doesn't wake up. He got it wrong for me when he said, I belong to nobody, I belong to everybody. How can you say you belong to nobody and you belong to everybody when in actual fact, in the prelude to your elections, you were busy flying private jets up and down? Did you think those private jets came from heaven? And was he thinking that people would not ask questions eventually when he settles down? I mean, those are statements that can only be made by a man who is cocksure and benefit from products of corruption. I mean, so, and we argue in political science that the substructure always determines the superstructure. Yeah. The substructure that led to his elections, for me, if you like, were totally fraudulent and corruption personified. So you cannot then come out clean and wash yourself from that product of bad cooking or bad preparation, if you like. So he needs to just accept the fact that this is going to be a one term. Forget about his age. It doesn't matter whether he's too old. For me, the former president before Goodluck Jonathan, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, was a young man who, in my own words, was sick, but he remains one of the best we have had in the last few years because he did something fundamental. He brought down the price of fuel, and that stayed for a long time. If he hadn't died, only God knows what other changes we would have had. So it's not a function of how old you are. It's a function of what you are determined to do. Forget about the second term and look into these people's eye and say, look, I know you, if you weren't there, I wouldn't be here, but the point remains that we have to do these things right once and for all. I don't care if I leave and things go bad, but I want to make sure there's a change. Step up his game, prove to Nigerians that the anti-corruption Caesar that people used to see him still stands, and take the bull by the horn and dictate the pace. People are controlling this government for him. This is his government. This is his administration. He needs to do that. He should stop hiding under the guise of, I don't want to do things so that Nigerians won't be saying I'm still part of my whole history as a dictator. For God's sake, who cares whether you're a dictator or not, as long as you're able to at least pretend as if you're stamping out corruption, even if you're not doing the right thing. The way he does these things these days, I'm tempted to believe there's something wrong with that leadership, and that's what we need. Everything boils down to the man who is president. You show us some potentials that you can deliver, you're rest assured that Nigerians will support you. Until he wakes up, we wouldn't move forward. If he keeps doing what he's doing, I tell you, in the next 6 months, you would be begging the Goodluck Jonathan to come back, even though Goodluck Jonathan remains one of the most irresponsible leaders we've had over the last 50 years in Nigeria. But you would be tempted to believe that it's even going to be better than Muhammadu Buhari that Nigerians have been yearning for. So let him wake up. If he's listening to channels, let him wake up from his slumber and take up his government and take charge. And that way we can begin to ask the right questions. Right now we can't because the president is still sleeping. When he wakes up, we'll come back and talk about the right questions to be asked. Thank you for having me.
All right, very well, Olumiwa Maoya and Dumikin in New Zealand. Najib, let me come to you. What would be your own advice, of course, just like Amuyiwa just gave his now?
For me, I would not want to pitch the responsibility with the president. I think he has his own job to do. Of course, he can send in National Assembly. You know, it's a bill by the president. Is more like an appeal for them to look into the issue and make their decisions. But for me, I want to start with where I feel the whole responsibility lies, which is in the people of Nigeria. You know, if the Senate President says the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission wants to look into something, look into it with whose permission, with whose supervision. It should be someone telling them, come, this thing is not reasonable. Look into it and do this and do that. The people of Nigeria need to wake up and know how to run their country using their senators and their representatives. These people were not voted to go there and use their own personal initiative. That was not what they were voted to do. They were voted there to represent, to come to their constituency, get information on what the people want them to do, and take that information back to Abuja. So I think people need to learn how to approach their senators, their representatives, and tell them, go to Abuja and say, this is what we want this country to do. So that's what, and we have a responsibility to Deji Adeyanju and Olumiwa, even yourself. We have a responsibility to keep telling the people that this is what you should do to make your country better. We have to keep enlightening the people. So that I put the responsibility with the people, left, right. So that's my contribution.
All right, thank you very much, Najib. You are in Lagos, Nigeria, just like me. But Deji, let me just come to you now and hear what your own advice, just like Amuyiwa and Najib just gave. What will be yours?
Well, for me, I think General Muhammadu Buhari needs to provide leadership. It doesn't take him anything to call the head of the Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Commission, to the table and tell him that, this budget is no longer business as usual. And then the Senate President and the Speaker will be there, and because leadership is everything. Once he does the right thing, believe me, nobody even needs to hear that you will just see breaking news that the thing has gone down, and it has gone down very drastically, and it will become very reasonable that all Nigerians will be commending government. So it all boils down to leadership. If he fails to provide leadership, I'm very optimistic and sure that many other who will provide leadership for him, which is exactly what they are doing to him right now. And I believe, because for now, you can see that the country still seems to be like it's on autopilot, and it is looking as if, there's no leader in the country, and whether we like it or not, whether, the statutory body are empowered by law to make budgets, and the reduction should not only be for National Assembly, it should be across board. You understand? Because the economic realities in the country is so frightening that whether we like it or not, we must cut down costs at all levels. Look at what El-Rufai is doing in Kaduna. You understand? It is commendable. He's in APC. I'm in PDP. But it is commendable. We should always be frank, in our analysis. So things like that, Buhari is not showing that it was as if he wasn't ready for leadership. But he's been contesting in 2003. So he should provide that leadership. If he makes the right calls, he doesn't even need to sit down with them. If he makes the right calls, calls the Senate President, call the chairman of our Revenue Mobilization Commission, and if he makes the right call, believe me, the right thing will be done. Because we as a people, we must hit the streets, we must protest, we must do this, but everything still depends on the leader of the country, which is General Muhammadu Buhari.
All right. Well, one thing is for sure, you all are insisting that leadership will play a part in this whole issue, and we hope that, yes, leadership comes into play, and we hope that, yes, it also boils down to the National Assembly, the RMAFC, and hopefully this issue will be resolved. But for now, I'd like to thank all of you for coming on board. Vijay Adeyanju, you're in London.
Thank
England.
You so much.
Najib Bello, you're here in Lagos, Nigeria. Olumuyiwa, it's already Sunday where you are. That's in Dunedin, New Zealand. I'm sure you can go back to sleep and also probably head to church in the morning if, yes, the body permits you to do so. But once again, thank you all for coming on board. It's a channel being Google Plus Hangout.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you for being part of us. And also, we see those of you watching on YouTube. You guys kept on. You guys stayed with us all through the program. Thank you very much. And we'd like to have you also on the program contributing your own quota to the discussion sometime when the Hangout is holding again. I am Victor Matthias, and it's goodbye for now.